Good morning and welcome to the Jefferson County Commission meeting. This is a special session. Today is December 11th, 2023. It's 9:30 a.m. We can start off with a moment of silence and we'll proceed to a pledge. Thank you. If you could please stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, first order of business is our fire levy workshop. So if you all want to proceed. Introduce yourself.
Sure.
And the floor is yours. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Marshall Demerit, representing Fire and Rescue Association. I'm the EMS chief of Jefferson Fire Department.
Adam Watson, chief at Independent Fire Company and the chairman of the Jefferson County Fire and Rescue Association.
So good morning, all. I think the way to start this is that I can appreciate that I don't think there's a conservative in this room that really wants to have this conversation, because it is definitely a tax, right? But it's a necessary tax. And so as a conservative myself, I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that this is a hard discussion for a conservative board to have. How we got here, I guess, we've been going down this road for a long time. We've been bouncing back and forth ideas. The bottom line is that there is no sustainable funding source for the essential fire service in Jefferson County. That is the way I've put it previously, is we gamble to fund our fire service. And we are no longer at a point in Jefferson County where the Fire and Rescue Association believes we can do that. So for sake of a short history lesson, you'll probably recall that we came a year and a half ago, we came with a fire fee proposal. We were directed by the commission at the time to go back and explore a levy. And so that is what we have done. We've put together a draft levy call for your review. We've put together the associated finances related to that. And so we're back today to discuss what that fire levy might look like if we were to enact it in Jefferson County. So the high points of the levy call, which again, I know you have in front of you, are that it would be a 5-year levy. So every 5 years, we would have to put it back in front of the voters, which I think is also a positive of a levy versus a fee. A fee the commission enacts on their own. A levy, the voters get a say if they believe and agree with us that this is and agree with the commission that directed this, if this is the way to fund fire service moving forward. We did, in our levy call, we did provide the approximate need of $2.5 million annually. When we were doing exercises for the fee and subsequently the levy, we generated all of our budgets. Everybody put together their essential budgets, and it came out to just under $3.5 million. So the levy at 2.5 will cover the majority of the essential budget items, and then none of us are planning to completely do away with our fundraising efforts. We understand we're going to have to continue to do that, but this will help tremendously in no longer gambling on funding an essential service such as the fire service. Over the course of 5 years, it would generate $12.6 million. And you can see in section C of the levy call, the valuations that those are based upon. That was provided by the assessor of what those class valuations are. We then used the format of a couple different jurisdictions. We used Hampshire's, we used Monongalia to put together what we believe is a fair and equitable call. At that rate of 2.5 million, we have directed that these funds can only be used for 5 major areas of service. So vehicles, for the fuel maintenance and procurement of the same, business operations, which would cover insurance, service contracts, training and software, station maintenance, utilities, renovations, procurement if there was a new one that was needed, equipment, tools and services, which would be purchasing, procurement or maintenance of the same, and then emergency operations. So those expenses that are directly resulting from emergency response. So an example of that would be, we have to order some pizzas for a fire ground or something. It cannot be used for funding our, monthly meeting, fellowship hour, right? It has to be directly resulting from an emergency response. 2% of the levy funds would be used for training, upkeep of the training grounds, which are adjacent to the fairgrounds there on Old Leetown, or paying to put firemen through trainings, which currently the independent companies fund completely. 5% would be dedicated to a capital improvement fund every year. And all of these numbers are in the appendix, so we'll talk through this in a second, but just wanted to kind of lay out how we see that. And the rest of the funds would be shared across to the 7 JCFRA, the Fire and Rescue Association member companies, so each of the fire companies. We use 2 different valuations for disbursement of those funds. The first is a flat rate at 12%, so each of the 7 departments would receive 12% of the remaining funds after that, after the 2% and the 5% disbursement. And then we used a response area formula to determine an additional response area percentage of funding. Following all that, what's left, as you'll see in Appendix 1, is roughly $250-some thousand. Our levy call currently has that being transferred back to the JCSA to support fire staffing. So that would be staffing in addition to those that are staffing ambulances, but to start the process of staffing a fire truck 24/7 or however Director Sign can facilitate that budget number. So that takes us to Appendix 1, which you can see is the total breakdown of that 2.5 million. So again, 2% of that training equates to $50,000 a year. 2% for training equates to $50,000 a year. 5% of capital improvement equates to $124,000 a year, which at the cost of a current piece of apparatus would still not get us there, but at least it's a start. It's bettering our future, starting to set some of that money aside. We can tell you, Shepherdstown just purchased a tanker, which carries 3,000 gallons of water. It was just over $700,000 for a tanker. And 10 years ago, these trucks were 300.
They're about
3 or 4. In 2017, Shepherdstown bought a new ladder truck, paid $1.1 million for it. If we got the same today, it would be over $2 million for that ladder truck. So the costs keep going up, and we have no current mechanism in place in Jefferson County to help defray some of these costs of this necessary service. The 12% breakdown across 7 fire companies comes out to $282,000 a year, just under $283,000. And then you get into the response areas. So as you can see in the square, we have the square mileage that was pulled from CAD. So those are the square miles that each department is responsible for. We used a formula to determine a disbursement percentage on top of the 12%. So you can see there, Friendship would get another 1.5%, Citizens would get another 5.7%, et cetera. That leaves $262,000 that we would give back to the JCSA for staffing. And that is a high level overview of how this levy call would work.
Any questions?
I have a question for the county attorney. What's the procedure for adding something to a referendum? So what are the steps involved?
We have Nikki, who's here for that specific question. Well, I will tell you that the timeframes for putting this on the primary ballot. Seeing, Nikki can explain that.
It's your all's desire before you answer is to try to get it on the primary if you could, or,
I believe there was a new legislation last year that requires the primary.
okay, so you can only have it on primary, not general.
Maybe.
I didn't, was aware of that. Okay.
Okay. The 71712 that I found for the county fire fee says it can be on either the primary or the general. So I did both dates. I'm not sure if that's correct. If there was something that changed with that, I'm not aware of. The primary, so the deadline for the primary, you all would have to publish the entire ordinance. You'd have to approve it, publish the ordinance with a class 2 legal ad, and then issue your order for it to be included on the ballot by February 13th. The order can't be any later than 90 days prior to the primary. So
Could you say that one more time? It cannot be what?
90 day, any more than 90 days before the election day.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So for the primary, which is May 14th, the deadline would be February 13th. The general, which is November 5th, would be August 7th.
Could you add a little bit more detail? So we have notice requirements too, right?
Yes, according
On the
to,
calendar, tell us those dates as well, please.
so you would have to, that would be up to you all. You would have to have that approved. You'd have to approve the ordinance, then you'd have to publish it as a class 2 legal ad in the Spirit of Jefferson, which is 2 weeks. And then, and it would have to be the full ordinance. And then you could issue the order for it to be included on the primary ballot. Now, if there's any other requirements, that's, I'm just telling you the requirements for the election part of it.
I appreciate that. And speaking of other requirements, could you help me by looking at a calendar and telling us what's the last meeting? We could make a decision and meet the legal requirements and our notice requirements combined.
So.
Tuesday.
January.
They would have to approve the ordinance first, then publish it 2 weeks before for 2 weeks, and then approve it by February 13th.
So we have a meeting February 1st. That would be a meeting. It would have to be approved by then. That would give enough time.
Well, but does it have to, they have to approve it before it's published, or
Yes, according
and it would need to be done before
according
then?
to 71712 that I found, you would have to approve it, then publish it, and then issue your order, is the way that I understood.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
So then the last, like, absolute drop dead date would be the 18th for you all to actually vote on it, to have it published for 2 weeks.
We have to, we're going to have it published for 2 weeks. And then,
Correct.
so
So you would have to approve the what you would publish. So you'd have to have the ordinance approved, publish that ordinance, because it has to show basically what he just gave you is, you know, the breakdown of everything. It's kind of like when we have the school bond on the ballot. They have to publish where every dollar is going. So that has to be published. You approve it, you publish it for 2 weeks, and all of that has to be done by February 13th to issue your order. So you would also then have to issue an order saying it's going to be on the ballot. So there are 3 steps just for the election part of it. Any other part, I don't have anything to do with, but for the election part.
So our, like Adam said, our drop dead date would probably change our last, or second meeting in January. So,
If we approved it on that date, then issue an order. That'll make it easy. And I understand.
Now, obviously for the general election, I know they want it on the primary, but the general election, the deadline would be August 7th. So you'd obviously have a lot more time
okay.
for the general. So
All righty. I do have one question. Notice the staffing numbers for JCSA was 262,000. Do we know what 24-hour fully staffed truck, what that salary? Finance person's not here.
I know the number that the ESA has used previously for is right around 100,000 per body for salary benefits. I don't know that that's exact, but I know that I've heard that number used before. So 200,000 would essentially pay for 2 drivers or something like that.
And then if a fully staffed truck is for 24 hours a day would be,
So Jefferson County's policy on minimum staffing is 3, but 4 is better.
okay, so 4, and to have a 24 hour cover, we're using 4, that's 8 total.
Well, if you're talking, no, that would be,
Well,
you would need, at 4, you need 16, 4 shifts.
okay. I'm doing 12.
Early and quick
I'm
math.
doing a 12-hour shift. I'm thinking I need to do 20.
Yeah, 24-hour shift is 4 shifts of 4 people.
I got you. Okay, I'm doing, okay.
That's 16, right?
All right. Yeah, the only thing, that's the only question I had. I think if it would be nice to include in the levy to have one full truck 24/7 covered labor. That's how I see it. That's just my opinion.
It's an interesting question. Speaking of level of service, if you will, you mentioned that if this levy were to be implemented, still wouldn't cover all of your costs. There's a lot more out there.
Correct.
Have you done calculations to figure out what what a hypothetical levy would need to be to fully cover all of your costs?
No, sir, we have not. This number on a $200,000 valuation puts the number at about $80 a year for the property owner. And I think our general feeling was that was a fair number. Now, obviously, that fluctuates based off your property value. So, so 400,000, you're at 160. But we have not done that assessment.
Do you have a rough percentage of how much of your cost this would cover? Is it about 25%, 50%?
I think it's probably closer.
For independent, it would probably be somewhere around 25 to 30%.
You still have to raise 2/3, roughly.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, through, we do bingo, we do multiple fundraisers throughout the year, or gun bash, and then we also do a donation drive letter. And then, people will bequeath a certain amount of money in their wills and stuff, but pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, it's over $1 million for independent each year for like our minimum basics without buying a new fire truck.
And, speak similarly for Shepherdstown, we're around that, we're a little less than independent. We're around that 700 mark. So we're looking at, roughly a third of this would cover roughly a third of our budget. For some of the smaller departments, I can't speak directly for them, but knowing kind of the numbers that they submitted, this covers much closer to 100%. But I don't think it gets anyone to 100%, but it gets the smaller departments very close.
It gives us a little breathing room pretty much, because some years are better than others on fundraising, but I mean, we're still having to work constantly to bring in those funds so that way we can continue at the level that we're at.
It's a bit anecdotal, but could you tell me about a year which it was really tight? You had a bad year fundraising or had your expenses and how that affected your operations?
Everybody will be able to probably tell you 2020.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah. That was the worst year because, we're still running the calls. I mean, calls tapered down a little bit, but everybody was, when we still had the ambulances, everybody was still running the calls constantly and people were not going to work, so they couldn't donate what they, the 25 or the $50 that they normally would donate to us, yearly. We weren't getting any of that. I mean, 2020 really hurt us. I mean, it hurt everybody, but it hurt our pockets pretty bad.
I'd say that the next closest year was probably and this was a long time ago, but was the year after the ambulance fee was enacted. We definitely saw a drop. Now it's come back up, but we did see a drop immediately following that. And unfortunately, we would probably anticipate the same reaction to this, that
And how did that affect your operations?
we don't let it. And that's, I mean, to be completely blunt, we don't let it. We have a job to do and a service to provide, and we have to fund it. There's no way about it. So whether that looks like loans or, figuring out what we can do to find squeeze a penny somewhere. But we can't accept an ebb and flow in economy to alter our service. It's just, we can't do that.
I mean, you kind of hold back on some of your capital expense, that you were planning on. We can use Independent, for example. We just finally fixed our roof on the social hall. It's been something that's been needed to do for 3 or 4 years, and we just kind of held off because of funding to make sure that we have it. So capital expenses, other than maybe fire trucks, we might try to let them go another couple of years. Our cycle is about every 20 years, and the PA says 10. So we're trying to make our fire apparatus last twice as long as what NFPA recommends. Hey, you need to replace it because of, we're going to have to spend almost $1 million on a fire truck now, just a basic fire truck.
I thought I misheard you at first. You use your vehicles twice as long as recommended to save money. You don't have enough funds. Is that right?
Yeah, because it's just entirely too much. When you get into places like Fairfax, Loudoun, where they have copious amounts of money because of the infrastructure, the businesses, and the taxes that they use, they have almost an endless pot where they can spend and rotate their apparatus in and out, in and out. We can't do that because we're fluctuating every year. We don't know how much our income is going to be versus our expenses.
I have a quick question. Maybe Steve or Jim can answer it. Maybe Nathan, I'm not sure who. But am I correct that impact fees were reduced to 0 for 5 minutes?
We realized we had fees only.
We cannot, it's illegal for us to collect the impact fee.
And I know that's what some people would.
Related question, and this is probably for staff. Class 1, Class 2, Class 3, and Class 4 properties. Could you tell us about that and what are the distinctions, and maybe a little bit about Class 1, assessed valuation being 0? What's the story behind that? Who would that go to? Who would that classifications for
The tax assessor.
tax assessor?
The assessor.
Your 1's farmland, your exempt, your 2 is your owner occupied residential. 3 is going to be your non-owner occupied residential personal property, getting into some commercial. 4 is to be more to commercial or industrial.
Thank you.
To go deeper than that.
The assessor? Okay. Ask a follow-up question.
There was, I know there's been one other, question floating around, which is the general budget or general fund, general budget versus, doing a fee or a levy. And I think I don't know all the details because I'm not a tax expert in West Virginia, but our understanding has always been that the tax base in West Virginia is just not set up to support this. And so if you look at other counties around the state, this is the model that they're all following because of how West Virginia tax base is set up and utilized. So I know that that's a question that's going to come up, and I thought it would be worth just airing it out here as well, that there are, as we understand it, some limitations to using the general fund. For now you're using it for EMS, and then add another 3 million on for fire, and that would be the laundry.
Elected officials.
So, if it goes to a referendum for a vote, and let's say it hypothetically it'll pass, every 5 years it'll go back before the people. So we have percentage of response times. Can these numbers be changed around every 5 years, or how would that work?
They could be. So one of the reasons that the association settled on the square mileage is because it's a little bit more stable. It doesn't change as frequently. Might have a little variation year over year, but not significant. Whereas call volumes can fluctuate significantly. And there's some other variables in call volumes, right? So just for example, Shepherdstown runs a little bit more EMS assists than others do, right? And so that kind of pushes our call volume up on the reports that you all see. I think you all see every month, right? So then we're kind of, I don't want to, we're not manipulating our numbers, but we are proactively increasing our numbers, right? And so where square mileage would reduce that, you wouldn't have that because it doesn't change. But that was a long answer to your question, which is yes, they can and probably will change a little bit every 5 years.
And that's my, as I review of this, I was wondering about the square miles versus population density and how you mathematically come up with these numbers and study so people know on their taxes and
Yeah,
to get it right way.
I think the other reason we settled on square mileage was that it was simple. Like it was the most simple calculation we could do, because when we start talking about dense, population dense, certainly there's a formula that could be worked out, no question. But this was a little bit more simple to understand, we thought.
And I do think this goes forward and it is something that has to be reviewed every 5 years. That's certainly, your response areas can change over the years. So that would be something that needed to be updated too.
Do either of you know how many other counties?
Wouldn't be hard to find out. I was.
Yeah, I've heard the number, but I'm not confident enough in it to answer that. I apologize.
And I can find that out myself. I do want to say that I really had hoped to set this up as a workshop. I think it's really important, the opportunity to come and listen and ask questions, and be very informed. It is their money, our money. And, why support you guys. I think it's very important to have a say, not just, I was elected to represent everybody, not just a few people. So that's what I was hoping to achieve. And I do hope that we will, I think maybe in the very beginning of the day, set up a workshop. And we can maybe we can schedule something.
A couple more questions on the levy. 2 cents, 4 cents, and 8 cents. Is that required by law? Is that discretionary? How'd you come up with the numbers?
It was discretionary to obtain that 2.5.
All right.
Also what Hampshire uses.
Okay, that's good to know.
So it was a good starting point. Right.
You told me other counties had a fire levy based on a fire levy from another county or counties. I mean, how many have it? Are they all very similar, or I know we're different with ESA, but.
Yes, the levy calls that we reviewed are all very similar. Yeah. And to write this call, we use those as supporting documentation. And obviously we tailored it for Jefferson County, but the formatting is very similar to Monongalia and Hampshire.
Okay.
Anything else? Anybody else have any other questions?
I guess at this point, what I would like to do is to send this over to our legal for review. To us at our next meeting. Appropriate. Does anyone have any objections to that?
Well, I have no objection to it, but I would like to try to get some calendar for very early in January. Set a date and time that we can public participate in these questions.
So you'd like us, public hearing?
I'm not certain if that would be a workshop. I'm still reading here, but I'm not sure if that would be a workshop or, I'm not sure about how participation works in public hearing. Are people allowed to come and ask questions in that venue? Is that how that
Yeah, I mean,
works?
Really.
No, then I would like to have something.
Public
with
hearing
people
is
to
when we hear
participate.
from the public. That's gonna be-
I mean, what we've done, I know what the commission has done prior to me in a situation like that is we have the room open, people could come into the room, whatever we choose, and they can have like easels set up and you can show, like it would be just a very casual like information.
Just
Like we did for the comp plan.
Yeah, just like the comprehensive plan, yes.
It doesn't, I don't envision, a formal, event or anything. I think that as long as it's open to the public who have questions, these gentlemen, and they can get answers to those questions, I think that's very important. This is a big deal. And again, I wholeheartedly support fire departments. $160 a year, I know that can be a little bit of a chunk, and I know people like my father who are fixed income. I know you said 80, and I know that number fluctuates. That's a lot of money to a lot of people, and we shouldn't just pretend that it's not. Ignoring you, I'm just saying everybody should have the right to say what they need to say or ask what they need to ask. That's all I'm suggesting. So is that a venue where people would be able to come and ask questions?
Mr. President, we have done and we did refer to them as workshops, which, subsides some of the formalities and allows, just exchange with commissioners. I know that the Fire and Rescue Association would definitely be willing and comfortable and would desire the same.
And maybe we could do it at Independent, where they have a nice large hall. And, I mean, I'm not suggesting that because I'm not inviting everybody there. I'm just suggesting. I think it would be very important.
Yeah,
For the ambulance fee, we did like 6 of them. So we did them all over the county.
Okay, well, I think this would be a great idea. I think maybe we can schedule that for some time. And then we have a meeting.
It doesn't have to be on
Doesn't have
our
to be.
meeting dates. We can all
Yes, ma'am.
attend.
Exactly. I was just going to say, aside from that, we have.
What do you think, the second week of January at some point, let's say at 7 PM?
11, maybe?
11? Okay. Yeah, it's up to y'all. I mean,
I'll have to check the calendar.
Yeah.
Be
But
100%
maybe
sure
we
when I
could
get
set
home.
a tentative.
Yeah.
why don't you,
Jefferson High has a basketball game that night.
oh, no. I tell you what,
But I don't have to.
we have time to do this.
So good.
Why don't you look at your calendars and we'll sometime on the second week of January, say 7 PM, 7 PM meeting?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, 7 PM, just pick a date then.
And tentatively, we'll have it at.
You can have it at Independent, if that's okay. Commissioner Krause's recommendation. And it could be just a question answer about the fire levy funds. And, be there to answer any questions.
What was the final selection date?
They're gonna, at 7 PM, the second week,
He's gonna check
of
his
January,
calendar.
something. They're gonna check their calendars and let us know.
But probably 10th or 11th.
10th or 11th, okay.
I would prefer the 11th. That would be better for me.
All right.
I also have a conflict on Wednesday night, but obviously there's a lot more people who can be there.
No doubt. No doubt. Okay. And this will just be a very casual question answer about, it's a very not formal Super casual, you could set up and kind of like you did with the fire, the ambulance levy as well. However y'all ran that, it was before my time.
Well, and I don't know if you need assistance printing stuff and having some visual on these charts and things. Would be good, but somebody has to do it.
Yeah.
You know,
We can definitely have, I mean, digital's easy, and I know Independent has a projector there, so we can have some things, on the board. I think that would be our request on the timeline, as we talked about, because we have the marketing that we have to do, right? So we, if this is for May, we need to get started. So yeah, there's definitely a time crunch, no question.
Does the commissioners prefer a motion to send to legal, or just everybody agree to that? Review? Okay,
I think by consensus.
consensus. All right, there you go, Nate. Does anybody else have any, you'll let us know a date, and we know the second week of January, we'll go from there. Anybody else?
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you all. It's on the agenda, approval to advertise the county administrator's position. We had a copy of the last publication. Is everybody comfortable using that same publication to advertise? Okay.
Yes, we just need to change who the
I'm sorry, is this,
applications are going.
excuse me, I apologize for, is this for the interim county administrator? This is for the actual?
This is for the action.
Okay. Yeah.
There would need,
Just remembered.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm finished.
There would need to be some adjustments to that document. It was published because it now says interim. And also I will note that it also says part-time, and also some of the benefit sections were removed from the original county administrator.
Somebody-
We may need to put back in.
Somebody sent us one that we advertised for Michaela.
Yeah.
That's what I was referring to.
Yeah. Not the one we had at the previous meeting. It
Yeah.
was-
You might not have been copied on that.
I can give you my copy. so you know.
My apologies, yes.
No worries.
Yes. All right, so everybody's agreeing to use the last publication from when Michaela was hired that's what we're going to use to advertise. I'll move that we advertise the administrative position for how long? 60 days? I guess we did last time. Up to 60, once again, the drop dead date of,
If we put it out there, you know.
yeah. I'm not expecting we'll have a lot of activity over the holidays, but who knows? Till February 9th. 2 months. All right. I move that we advertise the county administrative position till February 9th, 2024.
Second,
Any discussion? All in
I have a
favor?
question.
Sure.
Advertising the position is not a deadline for receiving.
Yeah, the deadline would be to receive any application by February 9th.
yeah, we have.
I would like to discuss that a little bit. Does anybody think that's a bit tight?
Well, I think we're past needing someone.
Yeah.
Well past.
And obviously, if we don't get, we don't happen to get any qualified applicants, we could certainly extend that date.
Fair enough.
I do. So right now, we're advertising for the interim, so I prefer if we could wait until that was finished, which will be on the 15th, in order to advertise for this, because it's going to be too confusing to have.
Yeah, you got a good point.
Applicants coming from both.
All right. I'll move the deadline back a week then to February. I will amend my motion to February 16th for the deadline. We will not start advertising for that position until after.
After we have an interim?
After we have an interim.
Until after we have an interim, until after we're finished advertising, because we wouldn't technically have an interim until maybe the first.
Where would,
That would push it back.
that's confusing for your
I mean,
position.
I'm fine to advertise it this Friday once the deadline, well, I guess Monday would probably be the best, so next Monday, I could advertise it for the full time.
Fair enough. All right. So yeah, all I did was amend my motion to have our deadline to the February 16th.
Second that.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Nathan, item number 3, do you need executive session to talk about this, or?
I will leave that up to the commission. What I can do is kind of explain what the issue is, and then I think probably for at least a portion of it, we would need executive session so that it's used to, it's like a settlement negotiation and offer, so discuss that probably.
You want to keep it open for this part and then close it for the negotiation.
Sure. Absolutely. Okay.
Very well.
Absolutely.
As the commission is aware, and I'm not going to try to get into, any, just the facts of what happened. Okay, that's all I'm going to try to get into. We did not meet for, and because of that.
Please speak up a little.
Sure. Yeah, as I said, I'm trying to only address just the facts and not trying to get into politics of it, if I can help it. But the commission did not meet for a while. Because the commission did not meet for a while, there were certain items of business that were not attended to. One of those categories of business was the release of bonds. And as you are probably aware, quite often when a construction project is happening, like development or something like that, there are bonds that have to be in place with our engineering department, would in fact guarantee that certain work. We, as a county government, we have an interest in being sure that when someone begins a development, that they can at least finish it to a certain level. You don't want to have a developer start digging a bunch of holes in the ground somewhere and somehow go bankrupt or go out of business for one reason or another. And you're left with just a disaster. Undeveloped property, but all torn up and half developed. So what happens in a development project is there are bonds placed with our engineering department that guarantee certain levels of development being completed when development is started. When those levels of development are reached, then the bonds are released. And the commission votes whether or not to release those bonds. Because the commission was not meeting, there were bonds, development bonds that came where the work was completed, but the amount of bond was not able to be released because the commission was not. Some of these were fairly large, and one developer filed a petition for writ of mandamus with the court, asking the court to order their bond to be released because under the concept of that of the bond, the developer has monies that are tied up and can't be used for other purposes. So the developer alleged that the bond, the purpose of the bond was fulfilled, it should be released, it hadn't been released, and the developer alleged that they were, the money that they could be using for other purposes was tied up, the credit was tied up. So there was a hearing before the circuit court. Court ordered that bond to be released. Quite frankly, there was really nothing that I could argue against the bond being released simply because our own staff said that the underlying reason that the bond was in place had been fulfilled. So I had no evidence to contradict that. The court ordered the commission to meet, and as part of that meeting, to release the bond. What I did try to argue about was attorney fees, because the theory of the law is that if the government is supposed to take an action, they have a clear legal duty to take the action, they fail to take the action, and a citizen has to file some kind of something, some sort of lawsuit that we take different forms to compel the government to complete the action. And the argument is that the citizen is entitled to their attorney fees simply because they should not have had to file that action had the government been against you. So I objected to the attorney fee issue with the court simply because you understand I have no commission to direct me as to what to do. But just as the lawyer, to try to protect the commission's assets, which are public assets, I objected to the attorney fees being simply because the commission attempted to meet, but was unable to do so because of then the court ordered us to brief that issue. Our office and the petitioner's law office. To brief that issue about attorney fee. We're beginning the briefing cycle. The petitioner's attorneys sent me a letter saying that they believe that the court will order attorney fees to be awarded. And if the commission were to agree to pay their attorney fees, and they wouldn't go through the briefing, and that would, they say, save about $5,000 to $7,500 additional attorney fees. They will also ask the court to, and that's where we are. So that's what I bring to the commission. Obviously, I don't make these decisions to bring it to you. But I think from this point on, it may be an executive session matter for you all to discuss. If there's any negotiation or any attempt to negotiate between us and the petitioner's attorney.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Have you been able to secure a copy of this bill that has been completed? Yeah.
I have, and I'm prepared to provide it to you.
Yes, I wasn't provided that. Okay.
I know you can't speak for the other law firm, but is that rate 5,000, 7,500, is that in the ballpark of reasonableness in your practice and some panhandle?
If we're going to discuss that, I would rather, if you want to go into executive session to discuss those kinds of issues, I would rather do it there.
All right.
Well, because this law firm represents Commissioner Stolper in a separate matter against me, I think to avoid any offense of impropriety, I will be recusing myself from this discussion. So thank you. I'll step out of the room if that's what we're about to do, and somebody will kindly let me know when we're done. I'd appreciate it.
I move that we go in executive session to receive legal advice.
But shouldn't he do it himself as well? For the same reason?
I move that we go in executive session to receive legal advice. 11 LLC and the county commission file C 19/2023, C 2020. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are in executive session. Special real fast.
Yeah, sure.
what to do when you're done.
Okay, all right. Move that we come out of executive session.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there any motions coming out of executive session?
I'll make the motion that the commission accept the settlement offer regarding commission payment of attorney's fees in the Lutman Land Development LLC versus County Commission of Jefferson County. I'll go with number 2. CC-19-2023-C-.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion carries 2-1. Is there any other business that needs to come before the commission today? If not, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Someone knows what the amount of that payment is? That's public funds.